The ball wasn't supposed to end up there. It rolled down a cracked street in a forgotten corner of Madeira, bouncing between uneven stones before disappearing beneath a rusted fence. A skinny boy chased after it, not because he loved football, not because he dreamed of becoming famous, but because that ball was one of the few things in his life that felt entirely his. The neighborhood around him was loud, crowded, unforgiving. The houses were small, the money was smaller, and the future seemed smaller still. Yet somewhere in that moment, running after a worn-out football beneath the fading Portuguese sun, a story had already begun. A story that would eventually cross oceans, fill stadiums, break records, and turn a boy named Cristiano Ronaldo into one of the most recognizable human beings on earth. But that is not the story most people know. Most people know the trophies, the goals, the celebrations, the confidence, the fame, the private jets, the headlines. What they don't know is the child who cried himself to sleep, the teenager who felt abandoned, the young athlete terrified of failure, the man who spent his entire life running from one question: was he ever good enough? Chapter 1. The Island at the Edge of Europe. Long before the world knew his name, Cristiano Ronaldo was simply another child growing up on Madeira. Madeira was beautiful from a distance. Tourists saw mountains rising from the Atlantic Ocean. Postcards showed blue water and green cliffs, but beauty can hide hardship. For many families, life was a constant struggle. Ronaldo's family knew that struggle well. His father worked long hours. His mother worked even longer. Money was scarce. Opportunities were scarcer. The family often had to make impossible choices, and like millions of children born into poverty, Cristiano learned something early. Nothing would be given to him. Everything would have to be earned. Yet even as a child, there was something unusual about him. Energy, intensity, a refusal to stop. He wasn't simply playing football, he was obsessed with it. The game became more than entertainment. It became escape. When life felt small, the football field felt infinite. When reality became difficult, the ball listened without judgment. For Cristiano, football wasn't a hobby, it was freedom. Chapter 2. The First Separation. At 12 years old, most children are still learning who they are. Cristiano was learning how to leave. He received an opportunity to join the youth academy of Sporting CP. It was the chance of a lifetime. It was also a sacrifice. Madeira was home. His family was home. Everything familiar was home, and now he had to leave it behind. The distance between Madeira and Lisbon wasn't just measured in kilometers, it was measured in loneliness. For the first time, he was truly alone. No mother, no father, no childhood friends, no comforting routines, just an uncertain future and a dream that suddenly felt frighteningly real. Many talented children reach this moment. Most don't survive it. Homesickness destroys them. Pressure overwhelms them. Doubt consumes them. There were days Ronaldo wanted to quit. Days he missed home so much it physically hurt. Days when the dream felt heavier than the reality he had left behind. But every time he considered giving up, another voice emerged. A quieter voice. One that asked, if not this, then what? Chapter 3. The Making of an Obsession. Talent can open doors. Obsession keeps them open. Even among gifted young players, Ronaldo stood apart, not because he was already the best, because he refused to stay where he was. He trained longer, ran harder, practiced more, repeated movements until they became instinct, then repeated them again. Some teammates admired him, others found him exhausting, but what many mistook for arrogance was often something else. Fear. The fear of being left behind. The fear of returning home having failed. The fear that everything his family sacrificed would mean nothing. Great athletes often appear fearless. The reality is usually the opposite. Fear doesn't disappear, it becomes fuel, and Ronaldo was learning how to burn it. Chapter 4. A Heart That Almost Ended Everything. Before the world saw greatness, everything nearly stopped. As a teenager, Ronaldo was diagnosed with a heart condition. For a young footballer, it was terrifying. The thing he loved most suddenly seemed uncertain. His future hung in the balance. Careers have ended for less. Dreams have disappeared for less. But Ronaldo underwent treatment, recovered, returned, and perhaps something changed during that period. When people come close to losing what they love, they often value it differently afterward. Football was no longer just a dream. It became a responsibility, a gift that could disappear, and he would never treat it casually again. Chapter 5. The Boy Who Walked into England. When Ronaldo arrived at Manchester United, he wasn't entering a team, he was entering a storm. The club was one of the biggest institutions in football. The expectations were enormous, the scrutiny was relentless, and standing above it all was manager Sir Alex Ferguson. Many players viewed Ferguson as intimidating. Ronaldo viewed him differently, as a mentor, perhaps even as the father figure he had often lacked. Ferguson saw potential. But potential is dangerous, because it is merely a promise, not a guarantee. The next few years transformed Ronaldo. His body changed, his game evolved, his confidence grew. The flashy teenager slowly became a complete footballer. Not through magic, through repetition, through discipline. through thousands of invisible hours nobody would ever see. Chapter 6. Success and Loss. Then came the moment every athlete dreams about. The world finally noticed. Goals multiplied, trophies arrived, awards followed. The boy from Madeira was becoming a superstar, and then tragedy struck. In 2005, Ronaldo's father died. The loss was devastating. Fame couldn't protect him, money couldn't protect him, success couldn't protect him. For all the attention surrounding Ronaldo, grief reminded him of a simple truth. Legends remain human. No achievement can remove pain. No trophy can replace a parent. No stadium can fill every emptiness. Some wounds simply become part of who you are. Chapter 7. The Global Icon. Eventually, Ronaldo reached Real Madrid CF. The scale became almost unimaginable. Millions watched every match. Billions knew his name. Every goal became global news. Every mistake became global news too. People began debating where he belonged among football's greatest players. Yet an interesting paradox emerged. The more famous Ronaldo became, the harder he worked. Most people assume success creates comfort. For Ronaldo, success seemed to create urgency. Every season became another challenge. Every record became temporary. Every victory became yesterday's achievement. He was not competing against opponents alone. He was competing against time, against aging, against expectations, against the possibility that tomorrow might not match yesterday. Chapter 8. The Cost of Greatness. There is a price attached to extraordinary achievement. The public sees the rewards. The private cost often remains hidden. Discipline becomes lifestyle. Lifestyle becomes identity. Identity becomes prison. To remain exceptional for decades requires sacrifices most people would never make. Missed moments, constant scrutiny, physical pain, mental pressure, endless expectations. Ronaldo accepted that bargain. But acceptance does not eliminate the cost. It merely means paying it willingly. And perhaps that is what separates legends from everyone else. Not talent, not luck, not genetics. The willingness to continue paying a price long after success has already arrived. Chapter 9. Beyond Football. As the years passed, Ronaldo became something larger than an athlete. To millions, he represented possibility. A child born into limited circumstances, proving that circumstances are not destiny. His story crossed cultures, languages, religions, continents. People who had never visited Madeira knew its name because of him. Children who had never kicked a football knew his celebration. His life became evidence that extraordinary journeys can begin in ordinary places. Ending today, the records exist, the trophies exist, the statistics exist. Future generations will study them, debate them, compare them, maybe even surpass them. But numbers were never the most interesting part of Ronaldo's story. The real story began long before the goals, long before the fame, long before the world was watching. It began with a boy chasing a football down a cracked street on a small island in the Atlantic. A boy trying to escape poverty, trying to honor his family, trying to prove something, not to the world, but to himself. And perhaps that is why his story continues to resonate. Because beneath the legend, beneath the celebrity, beneath the records and trophies, we recognize something familiar. The desire to become more than our circumstances, the hope that effort can change destiny, the belief that where we start does not have to determine where we finish. And maybe that is Ronaldo's greatest legacy. Not the goals, not the awards, not even the victories, but the question he leaves behind. How far can a human being go when they refuse to stop chasing the ball?